You do not need a writing routine to become a successful author. And I just liberated so many optimized Andrew Huberman bros who think that they need to have this perfect schedule and reject every element of their life to get started and get going as a writer. Because in our community, we are absolutely obsessed with writing routines. There are books that survey writing routines that sell great. Some of the most popular videos on WritingTube are videos like, I tried Haruki Murakami's writing routine for a week and it shocked me. We are all trying to touch greatness. We are trying to emulate authors by any means necessary so that we can just get a modicum of their talent, of their inspiration. And as a beginner author, it's good to model other authors and try things that they tried, whether that's in their lifestyle or on the page, so that you can figure out where you are going and what you like. Because there are countless other authors who are logic bros and say, I don't need to copy anybody, and never actually find out what works because they don't understand what's out there. But once you are done with that process, a writing routine is not exactly required. Because here on Write Conscious, I am trying to create a literary renaissance by awakening authors like you and helping you get motivated so that we can bring transformative literature into houses and brains all across the West for the first time at scale, which would create a more nonviolent and better world. And so if you do not have a writing routine, that does not make you an outlier. I've sat over the past week and looked at what a lot of authors do, and many of them did have routines, obviously, and later on in this video, and I've talked about it many times before, we'll talk about the merits of a routine. But what are the merits of not having a routine? Well, instead of hearing from me, why not listen to Toni Morrison, one of the American goats of writing? And Morrison says, quote, I have an ideal writing routine that I've never experienced, which is to have, say, 9 uninterrupted days when I wouldn't have to leave the house or take phone calls, and to have a space where I have huge tables. I end up with this much space, she indicates a small square spot on her desk, everywhere I am, and I can't beat my way out of it. I'm reminded of that tiny desk that Emily Dickinson wrote on, and I chuckle when I think, sweet thing, there she was. But that is all any of us have, just this small space, and no matter what the filing system or how often you clear it out, life, documents, letters, requests, invitation, invoices, just keep going back in. I'm not able to write regularly. I've never been able to do that, mostly because I've always had a 9-to-5 job. I had to write either in between those hours, hurriedly, or spend a lot of weekend and pre-dawn time. I've tried to overcome not having orderly spaces by substituting compulsion for discipline, so that when something is urgently there, urgently seen or understood, or the metaphor was powerful enough, then I would move everything aside and write for sustained periods of time. And so, first and foremost, a writing routine is optimal for people like us who have a 9-to-5 job, who have responsibilities. Right now, I have a 9-to-5 job. I have a wife. I have a 5-month-old baby. I have 3 cats. Workout routine, meditation routine, cook, clean, a million other things every single day. And I can't predict when my baby is going to wake up and if there's going to be a crisis. And am I really going to be a logic bro dick and be like, I'm sorry, I gotta keep writing. It's my routine right now, when there's some crisis happening in my house? That's why so many writers get divorced. Instead, the new game plan that we are working on in 2025 is what Morrison is saying here, that if you are writing something transformative, that if you are writing something with purpose and you believe in it and you are ready to share it, if you are ready to walk the path of steal, synthesize, stylize, and share, then that means that you should be ready at any moment to get back in there. Because I should say this. 10 years ago, I thought of this idea for this Western kind of science fiction novel that's been floating around my head for a while. But it's pure genre, it's pure exploitation. It's going to be something fun that I do before the end of my life. But I know it's probably not going to change many lives. But there are projects I have on the table right now that are going to change lives. And so I get automatically pulled, no matter what my energy level, to working on those at any time. The other day, I had my baby literally strapped to me, and I was cleaning the house while listening to music. And I would go back into my office, which has a whiteboard, and I would write a new line. And then I'd go and clean for another 10 minutes and be thinking about that line. And was that good? And then start thinking about the next line. And if you want to see that poem, it was posted for free on a recent post on my Substack that discusses the 2 or 3 books I'm releasing on Substack this year. Excuse me, the 2 or 3 books I am releasing this year, not on Substack, but physical copies. Sometimes that's how I have to get stuff done. There are other times where I have 4 or 5 hours of uninterrupted time, but I am constantly riding this wave of energy because it's connected to something transcendent. Toni Morrison, when she was writing, knew that she was doing something important. Almost every author behind me knew that they were doing something important. But doing something transcendent or important is not the only motivational factor. If you were writing genre or exploitative fiction, then obviously money is something to pull you through. The compulsion to just write more can pull you through. But you need to have something there. You need to have a polarizing anchor that's going to help you at any moment start writing if you cannot sustain a writing routine. And I would say that many people who have fake ADHD, I have ADHD, are drawn to this idea of not having a writing routine. But I would say that that is the exact group who shouldn't be doing this. This process of writing freely whenever and seeing what you can get done is more suited for people who, when an opportunity arises, can actually sit down and focus. Because I know people who have ADHD, or they claim to, and when they try this, then they get this moment comes and then they get thrown off of it, and they're constantly kind of thrown off of it. And the only way they've been able to be successful is by maintaining a very strict routine. Another author I know who did not use writing routines was David Foster Wallace. What he would do, he would be doing this like almost like biphasic or triphasic sleep, where he would sleep at times. This is like how Infinite Jest was composed, for 4 hours or so. Then he'd wake up and have that burst of energy and write, then go and do things and take naps again. He'd be taking these like sleeps that were probably around 2 cycles each. And they could happen at any time between his AA meetings or teaching responsibilities, his abusing of women or whatever. And another thing that you can do, and I think I would maybe recommend, is that you commit yourself to finishing a quota of either words or pages, no matter what, before you go to sleep and end the day. This is one of the most effective approaches that you can do in business and in life. You say, I'm going to get 1,000 words done today, no matter what. And you eventually train your body to realize, by having to do it really late at night or something like that, that you should get it done earlier in the day. I did that for a while with this channel. I said, I'm going to make daily videos. And then time after time, I kept doing it at like 12 at night, and I felt miserable, and I kept making crappy videos. One of my most popular videos is a video when I am just totally exhausted. And people are like, you're just ranting in this. I'm like, yeah, dude, because I have no idea. I'm just so tired. But that taught me to film more. The same is true with writing. I used to think I needed to be in a silent desert to write a lot of my desert poems, and that really does work. And I do go out to the desert every day. But one of the best poems I've written, in my estimation, was I was out in the desert and I'm sitting there, and it was a Friday night. You know, I got off of work. I was like, I'm going out to the desert, and I'm sitting there writing, and then I hear, let's go Shadow Ridge. And I look over and I'm like, oh my God, there's a high school right there in Las Vegas. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be here for like 3 hours. And I'm just getting this play-by-play of this football game screeching across the desert. But I still wrote one of my favorite poems. And that taught me that I don't need this perfect environment to always write. I've written poems that are going to end up in some of my books in classes. While teaching, you know, I have this, I'm teaching my class. I'm like, oh my God, I have this idea. All right, guys, do this paragraph. And then I'm writing. And I think that even if you have a writing routine, that it's important to kind of fall into this inspired momentum, because if you are trying to be a writer in 2025 and be successful, you can't just think that traditional publishing is going to help you unless you're in the exploitative genre. You're going to have to do this yourself. And so throughout the day, you could be doing other types of inspired pieces. You could be writing more blog posts or flash fiction or other things that aren't your legacy book that you are working on, that you're going to obviously sell, but things to rather get to help people get to know you and to help build your presence on a platform like Substack, WordPress, or whatever you're going to use, or even simply just working on stuff on Instagram. That if you are in this flow state all day, that you should be doing things related to writing all of the time and getting ideas for that and doing that. And that's what's so liberating about being a modern author, is that right now I could have an idea for a blog post or whatever, and it will get sent out to 6,000 people immediately to their emails because of what I've built on Substack. And it starts to create this loop that you put stuff out to people, they enjoy it, you get reinforced, and then you want to just keep working anytime you can. And that's a more practical model for how we should be structuring our days as really busy people. Because if you work and if you get 2 hours a day in on your novel, that's only 700 hours a year. And let's say you are planning to spend 2,000 hours on it, so it takes you 3 or 4 years to get it done. Then what are you doing in the meantime? What are you doing between 7 and 9 when you go to sleep? What are you building? What are you writing? If you have this idea that you can only write in the silent spot for your legacy book, I understand, but we are not just limited to that anymore. And so if you guys want to see this in action, go check out my Substack. Go check out my recent posts where I post some of my own poetry and some translations that I'm working on. Those translations I work on happen all throughout the day. The Cesar Vallejo one I posted on there, which is a beautiful poem. Hopefully I did it justice, Dead Idol. I worked on it from all throughout the day. While there was a million things going on, I went line by line. And over the course of the day, it took me hours total time, but it was really broken up into like 40 short sessions. Was it optimum? No, but I just finished a piece that will end up in a book in the future. And so that is the mentality that a lot of us should have. Piece this together, make it happen by any means necessary. Don't focus on routine, focus on the result. Focus on making a result happen every single day, no matter what. If you need to take time off too. Life does happen. It's not the end of the world if you miss a day. But retrain yourself to write in the modern way. Retrain yourself to write how you need to write. You are not Stephen King. You are not Murakami. You don't get to write like a full-time author writes. So stop thinking like that. Stop reading their routines and figure out how to make it happen in your own life. Thank you guys for being here. We are making it happen. The literary renaissance is live, and it's going to happen not because of me, but because of 50,000 authors like you who are going to not just put their work out into the world, but believe in that work and share it. Thank you guys for being here, and I will see you guys very soon in the next video.